All right. Hello, everyone. It's Mr. Barden here. Let's try not to bump that microphone. I'm coming to you from my classroom, not my normal setup, so things are just a little bit different today. What I'm wanting to talk about are sprites with the new version of the P5 Play library and how to implement various properties. Before we hop into that, though, definitely consider giving this video a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, you learned something, and you want to learn a little bit more. If you have any questions about anything I've said, or want to share some work you've done, definitely put that down in the comments below. I love checking out what the community is doing and answering questions and clarifying things as we go. So, what I've got here is a sketch that already has the P5 Play version 3 loaded. If you go to the main P5 website, which is just p5play.org, they have a template sketch. And basically, all I've done is opened this up and duplicated the HTML file. I have a whole video on that. We'll see if I remember to put a card for that up in the corner. Check it out. It should be there. Let's see if I go. Maybe I'll see that in the sound thing and I'll know where to stick the card. Okay, last one. I'm getting distracted now. So, I've got a sprite on the screen. And again, just the short version of a sprite. It's a thing with some properties. Basically, it's an object in our code that can differentiate itself from other objects. It has this collision detector. All of these sprites have a bunch of different properties. So I've made a sprite here. Again, you can set some properties right when we make the sprite, including the X and Y location that the sprite spawns, as well as the width and height of the sprite. If you don't give it this information, it just sticks a 50 by 50 pixel square with a random color right in the middle of the canvas. So if you give it 3 arguments, so just a width, no height, it will automatically make the sprite into a circle. But you could also do this just like so. If we say sprite dot diameter gets assigned a value, it will, if you've set the diameter to anything, it will automatically make the sprite appear as a circle. So if you know you want to have a circular sprite, that is handy for you. So we'll make this a square for what we're going to do in just a moment. So also from the P5 Play site, there are all these tabs at the top. Specifically, there's one here called Learn. And this has a lot of handy bits of code here. And you can see a bunch of different things all about the different stuff that this library can do. And here you can see the circle and the square sprite shapes right there. But so these on this page are some of the more common parameters. And I figure I would mention a few of these right here. So again, we can set the X and Y location. That's at the center of the sprite. We can manually set the width, height, and diameter as well. To move the sprite, we're going to use something called velocity. And I'm just going to copy this again. Copy. And I'm going to paste this here and here. I'm just going to make this X. And can we do negative just there to make it move? Yes, we can. All right. So what we have here. So just so you know, in general, a cosine function generally moves in this repeated kind of gradual up and down motion. We can set the velocity of the sprite, VEL for velocity, but velocity has 2 components, horizontal and vertical, so we have to say dot the sub property, so Y and X for vertical or horizontal, and you can combine these to make the sprite move in any angular direction. So again, just the Y, that is vertical. If I got rid of that, where it's just moving up and down. And then just the X would be horizontal. You get that there. Having them both, we move diagonal. And you can make that positive or negative to flip the directions. So again, by having higher or lower values, you can set that up. If you don't have something like a cosine here, it'll just move in that straight line forever until it collides into something. But that's how we can move a sprite by default. The next one I'm going to show you is rotation, and you can kind of see it right there. So I'm just going to say sprite dot rotation gets assigned some value. So this is the amount of degrees we have rotated the sprite image from its default appearance. At this point, I've done it 10 degrees. If I want it to go counterclockwise, I could say negative 10 degrees or negative whatever. I'll say it now because you may not realize it, but doing a rotation on a circular sprite with no image is kind of pointless. Again, if it's just a solid color, there's no way to orient it. So if you're watching a circular sprite rotate, you're not going to be able to tell a difference. So that's why I've left this as a square. But you can technically rotate the circular sprite. There's, again, just no point to it until you add an image to the sprite. And that's something we're going to do a little bit later. The next one I'm going to do has a very similar name. And that is rotation speed. So what this is instead of rotating the sprite and then leaving it there, it will instead rotate it by whatever number you give it, many frames per or many degrees per frame. So if I said gets assigned 2, then now this sprite is rotating at a rate of 2 degrees per frame. And again, if I wanted to go counterclockwise, would just make it a negative number and it would go the other way. So again, you can combine, I like combining rotation speed with the movements. I just think it looks a little bit more interesting than just a shape moving around the screen. But it depends on what you're wanting to do, but that's how we can set the rotation to go. And again, the higher the number, the faster it will spin. So you can get some really interesting things going on here if you play around with it. Let's see. Color. So now there used to be the old one was called shape color, and that may have been why it wasn't wanting to work on my previous one, but we can also manually set the sprite color. So if I said sprite dot, was it color or C? Sprite dot color. Equals, and I should just be able to do this. Okay, it did not like that. So what if instead, we just stick all of this into the color function, like so. There we go. All right. So by doing it like so you can say sprite.color equals, and you have to put this in the function called color. And what this does is it just formats these 3 values. You give it as an RGB. So I could maybe make this a little less red. And we'll maybe make it a little more blue. And maybe we'll make it kind of transparent. There's not much of a difference there. I'm just trying to play around and see that we can now set these colors. And instead of it being a randomly defined color, the sprite will always be the same color every time you refresh it. So that's what's happening there. This is very handy when you have multiple sprites, but they don't have images on them. So you could set them to be different colors so you can differentiate them. In my classes, until we start adding the images and animations, I'll usually say, make a green sprite and a red sprite or a black sprite or a blue, I'll specify the color for different things so that way you can tell what's supposed to be what and how they behave. Speed is very similar to velocity, but you have to give it a direction. So I'll just copy this one. Copy. You may find you like things more or better the other way, but in this one, we're moving at the direction of 45 degrees 0 degrees in P5 is the horizontal right here from the bottom. So moving at 45, we're moving halfway down there. If I said, 90, we'll move straight down. And so on. So we can set the direction property for where we move, but we won't actually move until we use the speed, because we have a direction, but we don't have any speed to move in that direction. So we have to set it however we want. And again, this is using that cosine function. I could just say there's a few different ones. Yoing. Tangents are fun. Sine is similar to cosine. But anyways, you can set all these things, but if you move it in a, give it a solid number, it'll just move forever in that direction, like I mentioned. So there's that. The last one is pretty self-explanatory. I'm not even going to go put it in the code because it's all right here, but it's just whether or not a sprite is visible. And that's a true or false Boolean value. And it's just if sprite.visible is set to false, the sprite, it still exists in the code, we just won't show it. So that could be handy if you want to load in a bunch of stuff, but keep it hidden until the right time. It's pretty useful. So these are the kind of the most commonly used properties right here. So I like this page because you can very clearly see what they do. I think you can actually go in and, you can edit this and see the changes in these properties. So that's pretty handy. There's also some little practice stuff down here. I'm not going to hop into that, but that's something you could do, and they have various levels of bits. So here the next one is talking about physics. We'll get into this a little bit because some of this is new and I need to learn it myself. But it's pretty handy. So that's where I'm going to be wrapping up this video. Again, it wasn't terribly long, but basically you just find the property that you need to do and assign it with an equal sign to a value. It can be a variable value, it can be the result of a function, it can be a number, it can be positive. It depends on the property and what you want it to do. From the main P5 play page, if you go to Docs and click on Sprite over here on the left, you will see all of the methods and properties here on the Sprite. And again, we've only looked at a few of the most basic ones. We haven't started doing things with animations and physics and things like that. So there's a lot more here. I also don't know why it seems that all of these are doubled. I'm not sure about that. But I'm not the one who makes this, so that's not my problem to fix. I may mention that to them if I remember. To illustrate the last bit, we'll draw this again. We'll move it back just to show this sprite is currently rotating just as fast as the square one, but again, we can't tell it because it's a circle with no differentiating characteristics. So again, that's what I was mentioning by you could make a circular sprite, but there's no reason to rotate it because you can't tell until you add something. Just wanted to end that there. So again, hopefully you learned something, you enjoyed the video. I'm going to put a link to both the P5 Play, if we go back one more, here we are, the page we were just looking at here with all of the template, with all the properties set up. I'll put this as well as this sketch in the description down below, so definitely check those out. And this is where I'm going to end it off. So before I start rambling even more, everyone have a great day, and I'll see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.